I fixed planes to keep them from falling. But my marriage was crashing piece by piece because my wife was one of the leaders of a secret cheating club in the skies. Her name was Claire. To the world, she was the perfect flight attendant, warm smile, charming personality, the kind of woman passengers would rave about in feedback surveys. To me, she was supposed to be my partner in life. I trusted her the way a pilot trusts the ground crew, completely, without question. If you're already hooked, go ahead and hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this story, because trust me, it only gets darker from here. The first crack in our marriage didn't show up during a fight, or an argument, or even some suspicious text. It started with something small, something so out of place it burned itself into my brain the moment. I saw it was a bracelet I found it one evening while cleaning out her car. A silver band tucked into the cup holder, engraved with the name Ethan. Not mine, not her brother's, not anyone I'd ever heard her mention. When I asked her about it, she laughed it off, said it must have been a lost and found item from a flight. She was good at lying, almost too good, but I wasn't convinced. For days, that bracelet gnawed at me. My brain, trained to notice the tiniest mechanical flaws in airplanes, couldn't ignore it. I've spent my career catching microscopic cracks in hydraulic lines, faint vibrations in engines, things no one else would see. And here was a crack in my own marriage, staring me right in the face. Then came the extra flights. Claire started mentioning last-minute assignments, late-night calls, emergency fill-ins. At first, I believed her. Aviation is unpredictable. I've lived it my whole career. But one night, I checked her schedule through a friend at the hangar. And there it was, the NO record of the flight she claimed to be on. That's when I knew. The bracelet wasn't a fluke. It was the first warning light. And my wife was lying. But here's the thing about me. I don't explode. I don't scream. I don't smash things. I investigate. I analyze. I fix. And if something is broken beyond repair, I take it apart piece by piece until nothing remains. So that night, while she slept, I cloned her phone, and what I found was worse than anything I imagined. There weren't just suspicious messages. There was an entire second language. Words that didn't make sense. Storm brewing in Denver. Smooth landing in Miami. Cloud 9 tonight. At first, it sounded harmless. Random chatter between coworkers. But I knew it wasn't, because when I lined those messages up against her so-called flight schedules, the pattern was clear. Storm brewing wasn't weather. It meant a party. Smooth landing wasn't about planes. It was about hookups. And Cloud 9 tonight? That was exactly what you think it was. It wasn't one guy. It wasn't a fling. It was a network. They called themselves the Cloud Club, flight attendants, pilots, even dispatchers. A whole underground society of aviation workers using their jobs as the perfect cover for their affairs. And Claire wasn't just another face in the crowd. She was one of the organizers. I stared at the screen in the dark, the glow lighting up her peaceful, sleeping face beside me. Message after message, photo after photo, hotel rooms, drinks, flirty emojis that made me want to throw the phone across the room. And all the while, she came home, kissed me goodnight, and acted like nothing was wrong. That night, rage boiled inside me. But not the kind of rage that explodes. This was colder, sharper, the kind that plans that I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet.no. I was going to gather everything. Every scrap of evidence. Every piece of proof. I'd build a case so airtight it would bury her and everyone in her little cloud club. And when the time was right, I'd bring it all crashing down. Because airplanes don't fall from the sky by accident. They fall because someone ignored the warning lights. And I wasn't ignoring this one. Airplanes rarely fall out of the sky without warning. There are always signs, tiny cracks, faint noises, small malfunctions that build until disaster strikes. And my marriage was showing cracks everywhere. After the bracelet and the fake extra flights, I couldn't unsee the signs. Claire was different, distracted, on edge. Some nights, she came home buzzing with energy, almost glowing. Other nights, she was drained, distant, collapsing into bed without so much as a kiss goodnight. When I asked her how her trips were, her stories felt rehearsed, too polished, like she had practiced them in her head before opening her mouth. That's when I knew I needed proof. Real proof. So I did what any mechanic would do with a failing machine. I checked the system logs. One night, while she was showering, I sat down with her phone and ran the software I had secretly installed earlier. It mirrored her data to mine, giving me access to her deleted texts, her cloud backups, even the chats she thought were hidden in private folders. And that's when the floodgates opened that I saw names I didn't recognize. Pilots, attendants, dispatchers, people she never mentioned at home. Their conversations weren't obvious at first. It looked like work banter. Talk about flights, delays, airports. But sprinkled in between were strange phrases. Storm brewing in Denver. Smooth. Landing in Miami. Cloud 9 tonight. I wasn't an idiot. This wasn't airline chatter. This was code. And the more I read, the more the pattern became clear. Every storm matched a night she claimed to be on a delayed flight. Every smooth landing lined up with hotel bookings I could trace. To her credit card. And Cloud 9. That phrase showed up before every layover she mysteriously came home late from. The final nail came in the form of a group chat labeled CC. At first, I thought it was just shorthand for crew coordination. But no, it stood for Cloud Club, and Claire wasn't just part of it. She was one of the organizers that I in the chat. She wasn't just talking about herself. She was scheduling others, telling one attendant which hotel to use, covering for a pilot who said he needed extra turbulence as an excuse. Claire was the hub of the wheel, making sure everyone else could spin without colliding. The betrayal hit me like a fist to the chest. This wasn't just cheating. This wasn't just my wife being unfaithful on a layover. This was her running logistics for an entire underground network of affairs. The same woman who told me she wanted to start a family was out here running a damn secret society for cheaters. I sat there in silence, staring at her phone screen while the shower ran in the background. The water hissed, and all I could hear in my head was her laughter from one of the voice notes. He thinks I'm always exhausted from flights. Poor guy has no idea. They laughed at me. Together, that night, I didn't sleep. I just lay there, watching her breathe peacefully, while inside me something shifted. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to confront her. No, I was going to investigate, gather, collect. That I slipped a small audio recorder into her luggage the next morning, hidden in the lining. Nothing fancy, just a device that turned on whenever it heard sound. She carried that bag everywhere. It was only a matter of time, and it didn't take long. The first recording I pulled nearly broke me. Claire's voice, soft and playful, clinking. Glasses in the background. Then a man's voice, deep, smug. Don't worry, Claire. Your husband's busy fixing planes. He'll never know a thing. I hit pause. My chest tightened. Rewound. Played it again. Same words. Same tone. I felt my blood turn to ice. They weren't just using me as cover. They were mocking me. That's when the anger crystallized into something else. That a plan that I wasn't just going to take Claire down. I was going to take the entire Cloud Club down with her. They thought they were untouchable, hiding behind their uniforms and flight schedules. But they forgot one thing. Airplanes don't fly without ground crews. And I was about to ground every single one of them. Most people think of airports as cold, structured places. Planes come and go, schedules are kept, and every move is controlled down to the minute. But beneath that polished surface, I had uncovered something chaotic, twisted, and rotten. The Cloud Club wasn't just a chat group. It was an underground network. The deeper I dug into Claire's messages, the clearer the system became. They used code words like pilots use call signs, casual enough to pass as work talk, but deliberate enough that members understood exactly what was happening. Storm brewing in Denver meant a group party. Smooth landing in Miami and a one-on-one hookup. Cloud 9 meant the big one. A full weekend, no strings attached. And Claire? She wasn't some random participant. She was scheduling, coordinating, acting like a damn flight dispatcher. But instead of planes, she was directing affairs. That I found screenshots where she reminded one attendant to book a specific hotel in Chicago. Another where she told a pilot, "Your cover story is weather delays. Use that." She was like the air traffic control tower of the entire operation. And it wasn't just her. The Cloud Club had layers. The center were people like Claire, the coordinators. Around them were the active participants, pilots and attendants constantly, swapping flights. And then there were the fringes, dispatchers, and even a few ground staff who helped keep the secrets. Fake records, adjusted rosters, quiet cover dash-ups. That IT was bigger than I imagined. And the worst part? I recognized some of the names. pilots I had shaken hands with on the tarmac, attendants who smiled and thanked me for fixing their aircraft, people I'd nodded to in the break room, thinking we were all just doing our jobs. Meanwhile, they were laughing behind my back, part of this secret web of lies. Every new message I read made my stomach twist tighter. And yet, I couldn't stop. I needed to know how far it went. So I made a map. On my laptop, I started connecting names, dates, airports, and code words. It looked like an investigation board. Out of a crime show, strings and notes tying together cities, people, and events. And piece by piece, the picture emerged. This wasn't just a handful of cheaters blowing off steam. This was a system, a club. They protected each other, covered each other's tracks. And if one person got close to being exposed, the others stepped in to shield them. That's when I realized something terrifying. I wasn't just up against Claire. I was up against an entire underground society that thrived on deception. The betrayal wasn't personal. It was institutional, and that made me furious, because I wasn't just some husband getting cheated on. I was a man staring into the engine of a corrupted machine. And I knew exactly what to do with machines that were too broken to fix. I dismantle them. The Cloud Club thought they were untouchable, hidden behind layovers, uniforms, and airline schedules. But what they didn't understand was that I knew how to see through patterns, how to catch flaws others missed, and I was already inside their system. The messages, the calls, the photos. I had them all. Now it was only a matter of time before I started pulling bolts out of their little engine one by one until the entire machine collapsed. But first, I needed help, because if I was going to take down Claire and her Cloud Club, I'd need access to things only a few people could see. Surveillance, logs, hotel entries, security footage, and I knew exactly who to call, an old friend who owed me more than one favor. Every war needs an inside man, someone who sees what others can't, who has access to doors that are locked for everyone else. For me, that man was Oliver. Oliver and I went back years. He worked airport security, and I worked maintenance. We'd grabbed beers after shifts, traded horror stories about long nights and insane weather delays. He was the kind of guy who never missed a detail, which is exactly why I knew I needed him now. One night, I asked him to meet me at a quiet bar just outside the terminal. He could tell right away something was wrong. "Daniel," he said, leaning back with a frown. "You look like a man who just watched an engine fall out of the sky. What's going on?" I took a breath. "It's Claire." He froze. Everyone knew Claire. To outsiders, she was perfect. To coworkers, she was adored. To me, well, she was still my wife. But the truth was bleeding through now. "What about her?" "She's cheating," I said. "And it's not just her. There's a whole group. They call themselves the Cloud Club. It's organized. They cover for each other. It's big." Oliver raised an eyebrow. "You serious?" "Dead serious." I showed him a few screenshots. Messages that looked like nonsense, but carried code. A recording from her luggage where a pilot mocked me. Oliver's jaw clenched. "Jesus," he muttered. "I've heard whispers, but I didn't think it was real." "Well," I said, sliding my phone across the table, "it's real. And I need help. The kind only you can give me." That's when Oliver became my silent ally. He had access to things ordinary people never saw. Surveillance cameras, entry logs, security records. And once he understood what was at stake, he started feeding me pieces. Slowly at first, then more boldly. Hotel lobby footage of Claire checking in with a pilot, laughing as if she didn't have a husband waiting at home. Swipe records showing her accessing crew-only areas at 3 a.m. when she was supposed to be asleep. In her hotel. Security logs confirming she wasn't where she claimed to be. Every new file he handed me was another nail in her coffin. But it wasn't just her. Oliver started pulling footage of others in the Cloud Club. A flight attendant sneaking into a hotel with a dispatcher. A pilot walking out of a room at sunrise with someone who definitely wasn't his wife. The deeper we dug, the more rotten the system looked. And the best part? They had no idea anyone was watching. At home, Claire was unraveling. She'd pour a glass of wine and pace the kitchen, muttering under her breath. One night, she snapped at me for leaving my boots by the door, then burst into tears, apologizing seconds later. She thought she was hiding her stress, but I saw every crack. Meanwhile, in their Cloud Club chats, paranoia was setting in. Someone's leaking. This isn't random. We need to lock things down. I didn't even have to lift a finger to sow doubt. They were already cannibalizing themselves. But for me, this wasn't about paranoia. This was about precision that I wasn't just going to blow this open recklessly. I was going to build an airtight case, piece by piece, until no one could deny what they were. Until Claire and every single member of her little club stood exposed. The recordings, the photos, the logs. I was assembling a black box of their secrets, and when the time came, I would open it for the world to hear. Oliver looked at me one night as he slid another file across the table. "You sure you want to do this, man? You could just walk away." I shook my head. "No. If I walk away, they win. She wins. And I can't live with that." For the first time since this began, I felt clarity that I wasn't just a husband betrayed. I wasn't just a man with a broken marriage. I was an investigator with the truth in my hands. And the Cloud Club was about to discover what happens when someone like me decides to dismantle their little empire. I had everything I needed to destroy Claire and her Cloud Club. But I wasn't about to rush. Precision is what keeps planes in the air, and precision is what would bring this entire network crashing down. The first strike had to be small. A test. Something that would shake the foundation without pointing back to me. So I printed out screenshots from the Cloud Club chat. Messages where one of Claire's colleagues, a flight attendant named Sarah, bragged about sneaking off with a married pilot in Denver. I slipped the screenshots into an unmarked envelope and mailed them directly to that pilot's wife. No return address. No explanation. Just the truth, plain and sharp like shrapnel. 2 weeks later, I watched the fallout unfold through Claire's phone. The chat was on fire. She knows. How the hell did she find out? This isn't safe anymore. That pilot vanished from the chat soon after. Word was his wife kicked him out. Just like that. One of their golden members was gone. 1 bolt loosened. Next, I went after a different thread. An audio file of another attendant laughing, saying, "We get away with everything. Our husbands are clueless. Pilots make the best liars." I created a burner email account and sent the file straight to her husband. Within days, the Cloud Club chat exploded again. "Who's leaking? Someone's sabotaging us. We need to stop talking in here." The paranoia spread faster than wildfire, and the beauty of it? I didn't even have to lift a finger inside their chat. My silent bombs did the work for me. Every message I leaked was like a crack in their fuselage. The more I hit, the weaker the structure became. Meanwhile, at home, Claire was spiraling. She'd drink a glass of wine before bed, sometimes 2, sometimes more. She scrolled her phone constantly, biting her nails, her eyes darting like she expected the walls to close in on her. One night, she broke down and muttered, "Someone's trying to ruin us. Someone's after us." I kept my face neutral, nodding sympathetically. "I'm sure it's nothing," I said softly. "Probably just gossip." She leaned into me, desperate for comfort, desperate for stability, desperate for the very thing I was quietly taking away from her piece by piece, and I savored every second of it. Because the Cloud Club wasn't just cracking, it was imploding. Marriages were collapsing. Trust was gone. The chat, once full of jokes and flirty banter, was now nothing but arguments and suspicion. "You were careless. This is your fault. We can't trust anyone." It was beautiful, but I wasn't stupid. I knew the more I attacked, the closer they'd get to. Realizing there was a pattern, they were already circling like frightened animals, trying to sniff out the traitor among them. So I paced myself. One leak here, another there. Never too much at once. It was like loosening bolts on an engine. You don't rip everything apart in one go. You turn each bolt carefully until the whole machine gives way on its own. And Claire? She was no longer the confident woman she used to be. At work, Oliver told me, she was snappy with colleagues, constantly on edge. She'd been written up once already for unprofessional behavior. HR was circling. The pressure was mounting. At home, she clung to me like I was her lifeline, whispering late at night that she didn't know what she'd do if her life fell apart. And all I could think was, "You're already falling. You just don't know." On the gravity, the first strikes had landed. The Cloud Club was wounded, and it was only a matter of time before they bled out completely. Planes don't just fall from the sky. First, the cabin pressure drops. People panic, oxygen masks fall, and chaos spreads. That was Claire now. At home. She was unraveling like a plane mid-descent. The once confident woman who strutted through the door in her uniform, smiling like she owned the world, was gone. What came home to me now was a nervous wreck with trembling hands and glassy eyes. She jumped every time her phone buzzed. She flinched when I walked into the room. Sometimes she stared at me like she was trying to figure out if I knew something. And then came the moment she finally cracked. It was late one night. I was sitting at the kitchen table, pretending to read through aircraft manuals, when she walked in with a bottle of wine already half empty. Her makeup was smudged, her hair undone. She sat across from me, her shoulders sagging under a weight she couldn't hide anymore. "Daniel," she whispered, "something's happening." I raised my head slowly, keeping my face calm. "What do you mean?" She gulped down another sip of wine, her hand shaking. "Someone's trying to ruin us. Not just me. All of us. The girls, the pilots, everyone. It's like someone's targeting the Cloud Club." Hearing her say the name out loud for the first time nearly made me laugh. But I kept my mask on. "Cloud Club?" I asked, feigning confusion. She blinked, realizing she had slipped. "I mean, just some group. Just rumors. I don't know. But it's bad. Really bad." She was lying to my face, even as she begged for comfort that I leaned back in my chair. "Sounds stressful. You think it'll blow over?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I don't know. Husbands are finding out things. Wives are asking questions. People are turning on each other. I'm scared." I nodded gently, playing the role of the patient, supportive husband. "Hey, whatever happens, I'll be here." She broke then, covering her face with her hands, sobbing. But I didn't hug her. I didn't comfort her. I just sat there, letting her fall apart in front of me, knowing I was the one pulling every thread. Meanwhile, Oliver fed me more intel. HR had pulled her into another meeting. Complaints were piling up. A passenger had filed a report saying she seemed distracted and unprofessional. Colleagues were avoiding her. The Cloud Club chat was pure chaos. "Who's leaking? We have to shut this down. Someone's after us." One message from Claire stood out. "It feels like whoever's doing this knows everything." She was right at home. The pressure was eating her alive. She snapped at me for the smallest things. A dirty dish in the sink. My boots by the door. Then she'd crumble, apologizing, clinging to me, whispering, "Don't leave me. Promise you won't. Leave me." I would stroke her hair and say, "Of course not." But inside, I was smiling. Because I knew exactly when I would leave her. When it hurt the most point one night, she asked me something that almost made me break character. What if my whole life came crashing down? What would you do?" I looked her dead in the eyes, and for a second, I wanted to tell her everything. Wanted to watch the realization burn across her face as she saw the truth. But then I remembered, planes don't just drop all at once. They lose altitude slowly, piece by piece, until gravity finishes the job. Instead, I kissed her forehead and whispered, "I'd still be here." She cried into my chest, and all I could think was, not for long, because she was already choking on her lies, already gasping for oxygen, and soon, her mask would drop for good. Airplanes don't drop out of the sky in an instant. They lose altitude first. Warning lights flash, alarms blare, and the pilot fights desperately to stabilize. That was Claire. Now, she was losing altitude fast. Oliver kept me updated with everything from the inside. HR had pulled her into another meeting, but this time it wasn't just a chat. It was official. Complaints were piling up. Colleagues saying she was distracted, passengers writing reports about unprofessional behavior, whispers about inappropriate closeness with pilots. The Claire everyone thought they knew, the golden girl, the airline's shining star, was beginning to tarnish at home. She confessed to me one night, her eyes red and swollen. "They're watching me. I swear, people are whispering at work. They don't trust me anymore." I kept my face calm, my voice soft. "You're imagining it. Stress does that." But she wasn't imagining it. Oliver told me the truth. She was being sidelined. She lost her favorite international assignment, London. She'd always bragged about that route, saying the airline gave it to her because they trusted her most. But when the next London roster went out, her name wasn't on it. She got a short domestic hop instead. When she came home that day, dragging her suitcase behind her, I knew immediately. Her shoulders slumped, her eyes hollow. "They replaced me," she said, her voice cracking. "They don't want me on London anymore." I hugged her, whispered, "It'll be fine." But inside I smiled, because I knew it was only going to get worse. The cracks spread at work. Colleagues she once called friends stopped answering her calls. In the crew lounge, she noticed people staring, whispering. One attendant rolled her eyes at Claire openly. The pilots who used to cover for her were now avoiding her, too busy protecting themselves. The Cloud Club was rotting from the inside, and Claire was at the center of the infection. At home, she swung between fury and despair. Some nights, she screamed at me for forgetting to take out the trash, then collapsed into sobs a minute later, apologizing, begging me not to hate her. Other nights, she sat in silence, glass of wine in hand, staring out the window as if waiting for the world to end. She wasn't wrong. The world she built for herself was ending, and I was the one tearing it down bolt by bolt. The Cloud Club chats were pure paranoia now. Someone's playing us. We have to shut this down. We can't trust anyone anymore. One message from a pilot struck me. Feels like we're under investigation. They weren't under investigation, not officially, but they were under me. And that was worse, because I wasn't bound by rules or red tape. I was patient, methodical, and merciless. Claire didn't know it, but she was already grounded. Her career was slipping through her fingers. Her reputation was in ashes. And yet, every night, she came home and leaned on me for comfort. She thought I was her anchor, her lifeline, the one person she could still trust. And that made my revenge taste even sweeter, because soon, I wasn't just going to watch her lose altitude, that I was going to make sure she crashed. In aviation, there's a final moment when a captain knows the plane can't fly. The engines are failing, the systems are collapsing, and the only option left is to ground it. That was where I was with Claire. For months, I'd let her think I was her rock, her safe place, her last piece of stability in a world that was crumbling around her. But the truth? I was the one pulling it apart piece by piece. And now, it was time to land this wreck once and for all. I sat at the kitchen table one Saturday morning with a folder in front of me. Inside was her double life: screenshots, recordings, security footage, hotel receipts, entry logs. A mountain of proof. Enough to bury her 10 times over. Claire stumbled into the kitchen, hair messy, eyes tired, clutching her coffee mug like it was her lifeline. She noticed the folder. "What's that?" she asked. "Sit down," I said flatly. "Something." And my voice froze her. She lowered herself into the chair slowly, her hands trembling. I slid the first photo across the table. Security footage of her walking into a hotel lobby. A pilot's arm wrapped casually around her waist, her face drained of color. "Claire," I said, my tone calm, almost clinical. "I know. I've known for months. Every lie, every fake flight, every night you came home late. I have it all." She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't want to believe it at first. I continued. "But then, I saw the pattern. The Cloud Club. The codes. The meetings. And you weren't just involved. You were running it." Her lip trembled. "Daniel, it's not. It's not what you think. Stop." My voice cut sharp. "Don't insult me. With more lies. You had your fun. You thought I was clueless. But I'm not. And now it's over." I slid another paper across the table. Divorce papers. Already signed by me. Her eyes went wide. "No. No. You can't. Please, Daniel." She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Listen to me carefully," I said. "I'm not screaming. I'm not begging. I'm not even angry anymore. Because unlike you, I don't need chaos to feel alive. I need peace. And you will never give me that." Her tears turned into begging. Promises to change. Desperate swears that she could stop, that we could fix this. But I'd already seen too much. Every word out of her mouth was another performance. Another lie layered on lies. Finally, when the begging didn't work, she exploded. She slammed her fists on the table and shouted, "You'll regret this. You'll never find someone like me." I met her eyes and said, cold and clear, "That's the point." The silence that followed was heavier than any scream. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt the weight lift from my chest. I had taken control back. That same day, I packed my things and walked out. No fights. No second chances. Just a clean break. I'd already worked with my lawyer to make sure she wouldn't get a cent more than she deserved. And with the evidence I knew she couldn't win if she tried to fight. As I stepped through the door, she collapsed to the floor, sobbing my name. I didn't look back. Because I was done being the fool. I was free. Every plane crash has a moment of no return. The altitude is too low, The engines are gone, and no amount of skill can save it. Gravity wins. The Cloud Club had reached that point. Claire was gone from my life. The divorce papers were signed, her reputation in shambles, her career sinking. Fast. But I wasn't finished at NO. This wasn't just about her. This was about all of them. For months, I had collected everything: chat logs, voice notes, photos, entry records, hotel receipts. And now, I unleashed it point one by one. I mailed anonymous envelopes to their homes. Inside each, the truth. A pilot's wife opened a package to find screenshots of him sneaking into hotel rooms with different attendants. A dispatcher's husband listened to a recording of her laughing about how he'll never know. Another family received a hotel receipt with the signature circled in red, proof their loved one wasn't where they claimed to be. And the fallout was glorious. Oliver fed me updates from inside. Families were imploding. Wives showing up at the airport screaming. Husbands throwing rings across kitchens. People storming out with packed bags. The Cloud Club chat was a battlefield. This has to stop. Who's leaking? We're done. I'm out. But the best part was watching them turn on each other. It was you. No, you leaked it. You're the reason this is happening. The paranoia that had been simmering for weeks boiled over into full-blown collapse. Members were quitting, deleting their accounts, ghosting each other. The once tight-knit secret society of cheaters was tearing itself apart at the seams. And Claire? She tried to hold it together in the chat at first. She begged them to stay calm, to trust each other, to ride it out. But no one listened anymore. Her authority was gone. Her empire of lies was burning. Within a month, the Cloud Club was nothing but ashes. The chat went silent. No more code words. No more plans. Just emptiness where once they bragged about their untouchable lives to AT work, HR finally dropped the hammer. Claire was suspended indefinitely. Some of the pilots were reassigned. A few attendants quietly disappeared from the roster altogether. The machine I had mapped out, piece by piece, was dismantled. Every bolt I had loosened came free. The entire engine collapsed, and I didn't feel guilt. Not even for a second, because they weren't victims. They weren't innocent. They were liars who built their kingdom on betrayal, mocking the people who loved them. All I did was show the truth, and the truth crushed them. Point one night, Oliver and I sat in the same quiet bar where this had all started. He slid a beer across the table to me and said, "Well, man, you did it. They're gone. The Cloud Club is history." I took a long sip, staring at the bubbles rising to the top. "Not history," I said. "A warning. Because that's the thing about planes. Crashes aren't just accidents. They're lessons written in fire and metal. And this was my lesson to them. The Cloud Club thought they were untouchable. But I proved the sky isn't as safe as they thought. Gravity always wins. The Cloud Club was dead. Claire was gone. And for the first time in years, I could breathe again. But freedom isn't just about walking away from something broken. It's about building something new. After the divorce, I spent a few weeks living out of a cheap apartment near the airport. It was quiet, small, and nothing like the house I had once shared with Claire. But in that silence, I found peace. No more fake smiles. No more lies slithering through the walls. Just me, finally in control of my own life that I thought a lot about. What to do next? I could have drowned myself in bitterness, become another guy with a broken marriage and a chip on his shoulder. But I didn't want that. So I built something instead. I took the settlement money, scraped together my savings, and opened a little coffee shop right outside the airport terminal. I named it Cloud9 Coffee. Yeah, a little ironic. The same code word they used for their secret nights of betrayal became the name of my new beginning. At first, it was just me and a couple of old friends running the place. But word spread fast. Passengers waiting for flights stopped by. Flight crews grabbed their morning lattes. Even Oliver swung by after his shifts, always giving me that knowing grin, like we both understood how far I'd come. The shop grew. My life grew. Every day I poured coffee for people on their way to new journeys, and it hit me. That's what I was doing too. Starting my own journey. A journey without lies, without betrayal. A life I built from scratch. Sometimes, when I saw flight attendants walking past the window, I felt a flicker of the past. But it never hurt. Not anymore. Because I wasn't trapped in that world of secrets. I was free of it. Claire? Last I heard, she moved out of state. Her career never recovered. Word of mouth spreads fast in aviation, and her name was blacklisted quietly, unofficially. She went from being the golden girl to a ghost. But me? I was finally alive again. The betrayal didn't destroy me. It freed me. And sitting in my cafe, watching planes take off into the sky, I realized something powerful. Sometimes you have to crash and burn before you can truly take off. That was my story. But now, I want to hear yours. Did I do the right thing? What would you have done if you were in my shoes? If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Hit that like button to support the channel and drop a comment below. I read every single one.